Hey guys, I hope all is well and you and your family are staying healthy. Welcome again back to the Grateful Living podcast. Today I am lucky to have Obi Nwanko joining me. Obi is a full-time model, actor, author, and entrepreneur who has modeled for companies like Puma, New Balance, and American Apparel, among others. He's a 2017 graduate of Boston College, where he also ran Division I track and field. He now lives in LA, but does work in New York City, LA, and Boston. And he is the son of Nigerian immigrants and has three siblings. Thank you for joining me, Obi.
Thank you for having me, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So let's go to the beginning.
Ah,
Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was some things, in your childhood maybe um, that were
yeah.
important?
So I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts primarily. I lived in Boston for about 10 years. And then when I was in about third grade, me and my family decided to move to the suburbs, a small town called Canton, Massachusetts. It's about 30, 40 minutes away from Boston College, so it's not too far away from the city. And that's where I grew up, primarily that's kind of where my whole existence and memory kind of derives from, because you don't really remember anything, most things post 10 years old, besides a little fraction of memories. So that's where I grew up. That's where I spent a majority of my childhood. And my parents grew up in Nigeria. They grew up and they moved to the United States around in their early 20s. My mom moved here, my dad moved here. They both went to school in Boston. My mom went to Harvard University, where she studied biology and chemistry, and then my dad was a business major at Northeastern. So that was kind of like my background. So like when I was a kid, they were very stringent on school and having a good education. And then as a result of me being so focused on education, allowed me to have the freedom. When you grow up, when you get that good report card, it's kind of like immunity to do anything you want. You can start asking all the things on your to-do list, like, yeah, so like I wanted that t-shirt, I wanted this. I was like, my thing was I just wanted to play sports. And they're like, I mean, you get good grades, I don't see any issues with that. So that's kind of how I started to get into sports. And I virtually played every sport growing up. Played football, played baseball, basketball, soccer, tennis, ran track eventually. And it was because my parents gave me so much freedom, and I used my educational freedom to dive into my athletic freedom. So I was like, oh, this season I'll try this sport. Next season I'll try this. And that's kind of how things just kind of started flowing as a kid.
Awesome. How important was the Nigerian heritage on you guys growing up? Was it a part of like, you know, weekends? Were you meeting up with other, like, was it a big
Oh,
thing?
like kind of how was the Nigerian community in
Yeah, was
terms of like
there a
sports
no,
or
is there a
education,
Nigerian community at all
like
around?
all facets of life?
Yeah, or
Yeah. So the community was very close. The Nigerian hub, a lot of Africans moved to the East Coast, so Boston, New York, and a lot of them moved to Houston, Texas, and California. So like those are the four main cities for Nigerians, and the primary reason for the East Coast, Boston, New York, it has the best schools. Nigerians are very focused on education and career development. So those are the hubs for the best schools and obviously the best jobs. Nigerians focus a lot on jobs like in finance, lawyer, science, really all that. And then Houston is also a big hub for them because of real estate.
yeah,
Nigerians love real estate, so also another thing into business and hot weather.
yeah,
So they go to Houston a lot. In California is just a great. You have the weather, you have the schools, you kind of have everything. So they move there a lot. But as a kid, the Nigerian community was very close because of my church that I went to. My family used to attend church very frequently, like Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, sometimes Fridays, Sundays. Like, so I could be in church 4 or 5 days a week.
Wow.
And that was just normal to me. That was legitimately all I knew. So all my friends were from church. So we all met up. I saw them every single week, like on the regular. And that's kind of how we started to grow like our faith together, manifest things. And like we didn't really know what was happening because we're so little, but it was we appreciated it as we grew older because we built up all these qualities and traits from like discipline, consistency, faith, obedience, and just respecting your parents. We all that's a big quality. Like as a kid, I was always told I was so polite, and I was so confused because I didn't intrinsically think I was that polite. Because I'm like, wait, these thoughts in my head, I'm not saying them, but like, like what's coming out is like, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Like that's just how I greeted anyone. And so whenever I like would be over my friends' houses, and I'd always greet everyone in the house, they'd be like to my mom, yeah, bring Obi over again. He's so polite. We've never had someone who's this polite. So it was like I was building these qualities that I didn't really know had so much effect on people growing up. So the community was really good in Boston for sure.
So now where you grew up, what was the diversity like?
Yeah, from Hyde Park, from moving from like I used to live in the actual city of Boston to moving to the suburbs, it was a big transition because I was around majority African American kids, minorities, growing up as a kid. So that's all I saw. I was like, I always saw people who looked like me. So it was never an issue. And then I moved to the suburbs, and I went from being like maybe half the class is black to, oh, I'm actually the only black kid in the class. And so that was a big culture shock for me as a kid. And for years it kind of closed me in. I would say in about third grade, I felt really closed in just because I didn't really know what to do. I was so like outgoing, but I wasn't sure. I was like, no one looks like me. I was just so confused. So I would say my first year living in the suburbs, I stayed in all the time. All I did was read books. And to the point where my third grade teacher actually called my mom, was like, is there something wrong with Obi? Because we had to fill out these little book slips and write summaries on our books. And she was like, he read over like 100 books this month.
Is it?
Like, does he do, like, we just want to know if he's actually, because they didn't believe I was actually reading. And then my mom was like, no, like, he legitimately comes home and he finishes basically 1 to 2 books a day. And on the weekends, he'll finish like 3 or 4 every day. And the teacher's just like, you need to get this kid outside. And so that's how I started interacting with kids, because my parents started making me play sports. So that's how I started interacting with, kids from all races, like white, Asian, Indian, like Spanish kids, like my town had basically every race. So that's how I started interacting with kids, and people gravitated towards me because I was just so authentically myself, and I was just good at sports. So when you're good at sports as a kid, it's kind of like an automatic. It's like, oh, word, you're on our team. Like, we'll talk to you. Yeah. So that was kind of like the basis of it.
Now, obviously, you are an entrepreneur. Was that something as a kid you were doing? You were doing lemonade stands and things like that, or did the entrepreneurship come up later in life? And maybe in your childhood, you were just you were living, you were doing school, sports.
Yeah, the entrepreneurship, it was very early on. I noticed I was very keen to always wanting money. And I think my first job was actually when I was about 12 years old. And it wasn't a job that I could just apply for and get. It was a job that I actually sought out for. So I started going in to just stores and asking them, hey, do you guys like need help with like, sweeping, cleaning, taking out the trash, like, just, or doing anything. I was just trying to do anything to make money. And one suit store like hired me, and I would just clean shoes. I would take the I would take the suits to the laundromat across the street, pick them up every single day. Yeah, and I was just doing all the busy work that the owner didn't want to do. That job, I think at the time, paid me about $10 an hour. Worked about 8 hours a week, so I made about $80 a week, and then roughly about $320 a month.
Yeah.
And as a little kid, that's a lot of money. So like I always had money early on as a kid, and I did that job for years. And on top of that, I would start doing people's driveways, and then started just actually working jobs because I started to save up more money. I've worked jobs at like Hollister, Starbucks. I was sales representatives for like Cutco, which is like the knife selling company. I don't know if you ever.
Yeah.
I did that. Yeah, I sold DirecTV, Verizon Wireless in the middle of like BJ's and Targets. Like, so I'd approach people. So it was like all these jobs that I did as a kid. I wasn't realizing the qualities it was building in me at the time because for example, the Cutco knife, I had to essentially cold call people. So that took a lot of fears. Like, all right, I'm just going to use my network and just try to make money off of it. And I would call people's parents every day and then do presentations in front of them. So that got me really comfortable in public speaking and talking to people, being able to articulate myself in a very structured, precise environment. And then my job at the Verizon, selling Verizon Wireless at Target, was one of the hardest jobs looking back at it because like when you go to a store, you're trying to go in the store in and out. You're not trying to buy really anything else. So I'm just like this guy interrupting people on their way in and out of the store, trying to get them to buy cable. Most people already have cable, so I'm either getting them to switch to a new cable provider or I get a cable provider. And I would get told no over 1,000 times a day. But all I needed was one yes. With companies like just get one person to sign up a day. And so that got me really good with being able to. I think Winston Churchill uses this quote and about success. He says success is going from task to task with this without losing enthusiasm. So I had to go from rejection to rejection without losing enthusiasm about my job, because it's very easy. Like at 2 or 3 o'clock, you've heard about 500 no's. You're like, no one's going to buy it today, but you still have to present everyone with that same amount of energy so that they do buy it. And so that taught me like a lot. So I would say that's kind of where my entrepreneurship really grew.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with no's and rejection and still stay the course. That's a big part of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Was that something about the way your parents raised you, like that they wouldn't give you an allowance or anything? I mean, where do you think that
Oh, like where that oomph came from? Yeah, I would say the oomph really came from, it was around when I was, I think it was around 10 or 11. So my parents did very well, like in their fields, and my mom still does very well in her fields. But so my dad was a businessman. He worked in finance. Some of his clients were guys in the Boston Red Sox, some NFL players, and then like some celebrities. So he like managed high portfolios. So he did very well. And then my mom was like a scientist, so she did very well as well. So like growing up as a kid, we had everything that we needed. But then all of a sudden, my parents got a divorce, so they were separated, and then my dad left for Nigeria. So it became like 2 strands. My dad made a lot of money, so it was like he was the major strand of income, and then it became just 1 strand of income, and then there's 4 of us. So in my mind, I essentially took the head of the household at that time, because I was the oldest boy in the family. So I was like, all right, I need to always have money, and I need to be able to provide for like my other siblings if they need anything, because I didn't want to stress my mom out. So I just started finding jobs and working jobs. I would say I've been working jobs since I was about 11 or 12 years old, like actually making thousands and $10,000s every month like before I even entered college. Like it was just normal for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I would say that's where the oomph came from. It was because I didn't want to ask my mom for anything. I wanted to pay for my sports. I wanted to pay for my food.
Wow.
I just wanted to pay for everything. So
Incredible maturity for a
yeah, I had to grow. It was like I had to become mature so quick. Like it was like one day we were living in, it was like a 6-bedroom mansion in the suburbs. We had one of the nicest houses. To the next day, I'm living in a hotel. Like it was just like life just happened so fast, and I just had to adjust. I had no other choice.
and you were 11 when they
I was
got
11, yeah, I was 11 years old at that time. It was right before. It was pretty much. It was a couple years right before I entered high school.
how did that I mean that's a tough I mean you're going through like enough, puberty and things like that, and then like, was that something that was dragging on in the household for a little, like did you like they were arguing and things like that, like
Yeah,
or
it was like the the divorce was happening, but they kept it very like between them. So it was like when it happened, I was kind of confused because I didn't really see any signs of it, and then it was like once the divorce was finalized, he just left. Like got up. It was like my dad was a businessman, so he traveled a lot. So like one day he was like, "Oh, I'm going on a business trip. I'll see you in a week," and that was just very normal for me. I was like, oh, he always travels. Like his clients are everywhere, so he's got to go to certain events, and just got to please your clients.
yeah,
And then he just never came back, and that was when I was about 12. About 12, I think it was like my right before I entered high school,
yeah,
and so like that as a kid just like confused me on so many levels, but it brought out really the person inside of me. It was like I needed to, I could complain about it for years and let that be my story, or I could change the script and write my own story. So that's where my faith in God and like believing myself manifesting. So I was like, all right, if I'm gonna do this, like I really need to work so hard because I'm so disadvantaged now. Like I don't even have a father anymore. And like this, I can see that these emotions are affecting me. Let me put these emotions into something productive and let me just try to be the very best at it. So I was just like, I'm going to always make money. I'm always going to do good in school and I'm always going to do athletics. And that was just like my non-negotiables for myself. So I could make something out of myself because I saw the way my family struggled for a couple years after that, and I was like, no, I'm never gonna allow struggle to be like within our family name ever again. So like it brought out so much. I would honestly say it was I thank God for it happening because I could have really coasted on and been just a little more comfortable, which probably would have put me like this in a flat line, couple like ups, but like definitely it wouldn't have not made me work so hard just to go straight to the top. The top might have happened eventually, but it would have taken time because I was so comfortable, and you need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to really bring out the best in you.
yeah, it drove you to be self-sufficient. And
Exactly.
was there a point at which like after like a month where you guys as a family realized like did he communicate to you that he wasn't coming back?
No, like I probably didn't hear from him for maybe I remember the first time I heard from him because I was in high school. I think it was my sophomore junior year in high school, and I was at my friend's sleepover, so it had to be about junior year because this friend group I started to become close with at that time. And it was my friend Aiden. We were in his basement, and I get a call from a Nigerian number, and it's my dad, and I answer it, and it was like, hey, Obi, and I was like, who's this? He's like, it's your dad. I was like, what? I was like, I think I was 17 at the time. It had been almost 6 years from hearing from him, and I was just so confused. And it was just a lot for me to deal with at the time. But every single time, like I thought about my dad when I was a kid, it just motivated me to be a better version because it was like I didn't think he was a bad person. I just thought he did a bad thing. So it was like I didn't think he was an actual bad person. I actually, wanted to be very because I thought I was like he was just so successful, like to the point where we would be able to go to the Red Sox games. Like I got to meet like Johnny Damon, like Jason Varitek, like back in 2004 when the Red Sox won the World Series. He got a ring. He gave it to me. Like I was wearing a World Series ring in high school. So like I loved baseball so much as a kid growing up because I was like, this is so cool. Like I'm like in with these players. And so it's like I always emulated my dad in that sense. So
Yeah. So do you think that I don't know, did it make you guys closer as a family?
yeah, definitely, it definitely made us closer. Like I would say, me and all my siblings we're so close, and it's really magical because I see other people and their siblings. Some of them might not be as close, and it just makes me really appreciate what I have, like with all my siblings, because we had to go through so much that like it just bonded us so much together. Like you got to scream, you got to fight, you got to love, you got to hate, and so that just brings you even closer. So it was really, yeah, it was really a gift.
Good. Do you have do you have any relationship with him at all now? Is he trying?
Pretty non-existent. Funny thing, it was actually it was my birthday last week, and he called me on my birthday. I hadn't heard from him in about a year. He's been calling me. He's been trying to reach out to me a lot more lately. He's just been trying to reach out a lot more. I think as you become a little more successful, he's like, whoa, that's my son. I created him, type thing. So it's like I've told him like I'm open to having a relationship, but it's gonna be on like my own schedule and like my own time. Right now it's just like a busy time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, I told him I'm open. We can like talk. I don't have any resentment towards him.
That's
Like
really good on you.
all love.
That's amazing. So I guess so now, so you're 11, you're going through, parents divorcing and things like that. Um, were you doing track and field at that time?
I started track when I was 13 or 14 years old. So I started track in high school. I was mostly prior to high school. I was mostly doing football, basketball. I would say and baseball. I would say those were the sports I was focusing on. And then when I went into high school, it was that decision. I kept on playing football, kept on playing basketball, and then it was spring, and I was like, damn, do I join the baseball team? And everyone's telling me to do track because everyone was like, bro, this guy's lightning on the football field. Like, we got to get him to do track. And I was like, no, I play baseball. And so, like, they convinced me to go off for the track team and not play baseball, which was like, no one thought that was going to happen because baseball was my number one sport at the time. It was like, baseball was just the clear number one.
Yeah.
And so I quit baseball just sporadically and I joined the track team. And my first track race did not go well. Like I think I came in second to last or almost dead last. I ran about 72 sequence in the 400.
This is your freshman spring?
Yeah, freshman spring in high school. And then I remember telling them, I'm gonna quit. Like I'm not good at this. Like I told y'all, like I don't have track speed. I just have like sports speed. Like I'm game speed. Like bro, you have it. You just don't know how to run yet. Yeah. And so I just kept on going with it, and it just kept on getting better from there.
Was there so at some point, was it sophomore, junior year that colleges started recruiting you?
Yeah, I would say it was it was junior year. Yeah, because sophomore year I started getting the recognition. Like I was starting to get invited to like special, like more elite meets. So like where I was able to face like better competition. So like that's when things like really started to emerge. And like it was like during my sophomore year, like I remember like my coach like sat me down and he's like, if you like really commit hard these next 2 years, there's no question in my mind that you'll go Division 1. You just need to like commit fully to it. Like you need to you can't be playing basketball because I messed up my ankle sophomore year and I was out for the rest of the season. And he's like, you can't be playing basketball, you can't be playing football anymore. You gotta only run track. And I was like, damn. So I quit football, I quit basketball, quit everything, stopped even playing it recreationally, except during the summers, you got to have a little fun. And I just stopped playing and I just committed myself fully to track. And it was like, I just started seeing dividends. And like, I think my junior year, I think BC was like one of the first schools to contact me. It was my junior year because a kid on my team was already on the Boston College track team, John Vaughn.
Yeah.
He was running sprints for them. And so he told them about me. So they started, putting me on their radar. And then I think after my junior year, this is what like kind of changed the whole scope for me. Was I was going into my senior year, I didn't have any offers. Like no one had offered me yet to like fully go at their school. People were looking at me. I was getting all the good athletes on school were getting sent mail, like, recruiting mail. So I was getting recruiting mail from like Michigan, UVA, Stanford, UConn, all these schools, but it's just like very generic. Like they're just giving it to like the top people in the state, but nothing specific. So I was like, I need to get myself really on the map. Like I need to, qualify for nationals. Like I need to, run at these now, like I'm running at the top Massachusetts, New England meets, but I need to be like running at the top fit national meets, like where the best kids go. So I signed up. There was a college meet, and that's why I thank myself that I always work. So I always had money to like, if I want to do something, it's my decision. Yeah. So I signed up for a college meet and paid for myself to get down there, and paid for myself for my meet entry and all that stuff, and got like paid for my own jersey because I couldn't use my high school jersey and run with it. So I paid for everything, cost like a little over like $100, and I just to run in one meet. And I was like, okay.
In high school.
I was like, I'm paying a lot of money. I usually run for free. Now I'm paying to run. I was like, so I got to run fast. And so I ran at this meet, and I ended up winning my heat, like against these college guys. It was like, it was just like a rust buster. Like it's like the meet 2 weeks before they even start the season. It's like their preseason. Yeah. And so I ended up winning because I've been training all year for it, and I qualified for nationals. And after that day, the schools just started coming in, because once you qualify for nationals, it's like you're on a separate list of people that are specifically sent out. So schools will like only look at kids who qualify for like the nationals. And so BC offered me like UConn. I was getting recruited heavily by UConn, like Michigan, UVA, all these schools. They actually, the coach, I'm really having conversations with their coaches, and like we're talking about me going to their schools. And so at the end of the day, I ended up just choosing BC because I wanted to be close to home, and I always liked Boston College, and my friend was there, so it was kind of like a no-brainer for me.
So when was that meet? That was your senior fall?
Yeah, that was my senior fall, around December. Yeah.
And it came full circle. I mean, you like having jobs and side jobs and things like that. I mean, that allowed you.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have been able to pay for it. Like that would be something my mom would have paid for it. Yeah. Because I would have shown, so much interest, but I'd even have to ask her. It was like, it just would have been another thing I would have had to ask at that point, which I didn't want to do, because I'm like, I'm about to be going to school. And I didn't go to BC for free. So I chose, I got a lot of like I was doing very well academically in school anyways. I was in mostly AP classes. And so I already had like a high GPA. So on the basis of getting into BC, I could have got in on my own merit. So when I got in, they gave me an academic scholarship because they didn't have any athletic scholarships for the men's track and field team. So I think they covered about 3/4 of my way to go there. And, I had full rides from other schools, but I was like, I wanted to go to BC so bad that I didn't even care. I was like, go to college for free, or like end up paying like $60,000+ at the end of the day. But this is like where I feel like I need to go. And so I went to BC, and, I was like, it just made sense to me.
Yeah. Now, how was BC? How was, were you doing anything related to, modeling, acting? I mean, you have a busy schedule as an athlete with school and,
Yeah, I wasn't doing anything related to it, like whatsoever. It was Yeah, I was mostly focused on like entrepreneurship at BC and athletics. Like I really like wanted more than anything, I wanted to do well in athletics at BC. Like that was like my big goal. Like I obviously wanted to do well academically,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make an imprint athletically just because I thought it was so tangible and it was I was so capable of making it happen because the year before I just set my high school record. So I was like, oh, I want to go to BC and set my college record too. Like that'd be cool. Like because no one at our no one that I knew at that point was really, they were good high school athletes, but very few people were like exceptional college athletes. And then, we had some kids in our town. We have a couple kids in our town who play pro now, but it was like those kids who played pro, I was just like, holy crap, like I don't even know how you do that, like NHL, NFL,
Yeah.
in those leagues. And so I always admired kids like that. So I just wanted to do the best I could at BC. It wasn't necessarily my dream to go pro.
But at some point, you realized you were pretty. I mean, I have here that you broke 10 school records.
Yeah, it was. I think it was about 10. Yeah.
I mean, at some point, you realized you like. I mean, obviously through hard work, but that you had a chance to maybe even go the professional route.
Yeah, it was like my junior year. Like I think when the conversation was first brought up with like my coach, he's like, yeah, you run, like my coach, my coach went pro too, and so he was like he knew about the whole like path and transition, but he was like an NCAA champion, like we're not even talking about school record holder. Like he was the number one in the country. And he was like, the way you're running and, you're still young and all this stuff. Like, he's like, there's so much and you don't even really fully commit. I mean, not that I didn't fully commit to it, but even now I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's ways I could have changed my diet, eaten better, not partied, like, not, like if I just didn't party at all, I guarantee I would have been a better athlete. So there's so many, and he said, and he thought I could go pro if I fully committed myself. So like for someone on his stature to say something like that to me, it made me really believe it. And yeah, but I was just so focused on just being my best in that moment and then seeing where it took me. And so it was the school record and just walking out of BC the best from what they had. Like I wasn't trying to compare myself to other schools. I was like, I just want to be the best person here so we can like make a name for ourselves and it can pave the way. And so that was just my record from day one.
What drove you? I mean, how, like, because there's so many college athletes, and then, people think once you get there, like you made it, but that's when it begins. Like,
yeah,
obviously that's a huge step, but what was the difference between you and, somebody else on your team that, maybe wasn't work? Like, what drove you to get 10 school records? Like, how
yeah, it was, I always just I guess as a little kid, like when all this stuff happened, like with my family, I felt like I couldn't, like there was that little slight doubt in my head that's saying, oh, well, things that happen to people like this, they end up not becoming anything. So I was just so afraid of not becoming someone because of like my life circumstances. And like when you're a kid that young, you don't really understand that that's not true because all you can only take in like what your experience is and what you see on TV. So like when you see the dad that leaves his boy and then the boy, nothing bad happens. He starts having issues with his family. They live like in the slums. Like you don't hear the stories of, like the boy, his dad, like black dad left. The kid became extremely successful, did all these amazing things. They don't tell stories. They weren't, at least when I was a kid, they weren't telling stories like that. Yeah. And so I wanted to make something for myself. And I always took so much pride like in my name and like who I was. And I was always having these dreams, like, and I would always say they were like faith dreams. And like God would just be showing me like all these like records, billboards, like my name's on a list. And so I just believed in it. Yeah. And So my one thing was for me, it was like, I'm just going to be consistent. I'm not even going to focus on, I'm just going to do this every single day.
Yeah.
And that was the main difference between me and the kids right next to me. Like a lot of them actually came in more highly recruited than me, had way faster high school times than me, but they didn't do it every single day. Like I'd be in the bubble. I'd already work out on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or Thursdays, Fridays at like 12 for like 3 or 4 hours. And then I'd be in the bubble doing sleds at night, like, talking. I was very close with the people who like ran and they'd let me sit in there for extra time and I just do sleds, just running faster and faster and faster. And on the weekends, like I basically did not take many days off when I was at BC. I just didn't. It was just not an option for me. Like I maybe I could have committed more time to recovery, but I was 6, 7 days a week. And maybe on that seventh day, I would just stretch or just like swim, but I rarely took days off. And so I would say that was the biggest difference between me and other kids.
Yeah. Excellence is a habit. I mean, it's easy to score, 25 points in an NBA game once, but
Yeah. How about you do it 82?
the difference is that's impressive. That's awesome. So you said that you did a little bit of entrepreneurship in college?
Yeah, I was mostly run. I think it was about senior year. I started creating like clothing, and I started creating. I created like kind of like the entertainment promotion company. It was called like Titanic Entertainment. So I was running that, and so I was just doing a lot of event planning, and so that gave me a lot of flexibility because I mean, people. That's why these promoters and entertainers who do the Boston nightlife.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, you can pull in a lot of money. There was some like as a college student, and I hate to like I even now, I guess it's fine now because it's looking back on it, so it's a story.
Yeah.
But I never talk about like income or like money or any of that. But like for this, just to give people perspective on like what you can do as a college student to gain flexibility is some nights I'd walk out with like $3,000 just from throwing an event. Like, and I'm just like, and I didn't have to work a job in school because every summer I always had an internship. So, and then my freshman year summer, I was selling Verizon Wireless at Target. And then I worked at Ernst & Young for like 2 summers. And then my senior year, I was like, I'm just going to start this company because I just need to, put this money that I've been saving into use. So I started creating merch, clothing, and I didn't sell any of the merch or clothing. I just gave it out for free because it was great publicity. Like people would just wear it. And so it was just good branding. And then,
did you see an opportunity when you were like 21 of creating a club promotions company? I mean, and were there partners involved or?
Yeah, I was working, one of my friends from BU, I was working with her, and then we probably had about 15 to 20 kids that were working with us throughout Boston. So like kids from Harvard, MIT, BU, Suffolk, Babson. And so, like I had like employees, which was like super nice because when I started traveling for track, I couldn't obviously go out. And so like these people were kind of like overseeing all the operations, and I would just kind of like, handle things from the top and then just trickle it down. So that was also very gratifying because, kids, I find this is a big thing during college because we're just all pro college students most of the time. And so it put money into other kids' pockets, and just seeing them being so appreciative of like having flexibility in their life. They're like, oh, now I can quit my library desk job. I don't have to work on it anymore because I'm making a couple $100s from this, and I don't have to pay for drinks anymore. So it was like, that was like gratifying for myself personally.
That's awesome. So as you're graduating from BC, where were you headed at that point?
So I got a job offer beginning of senior years from Accenture, and it was a job offer in Boston. And so I accepted it. So I was supposed to work in the Boston office, and then came home around December/January. And it was snowing and I was training for track still in the snow. I was just miserable. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in Boston anymore. And my main reason for staying in Boston was because I'd grown up there and I wanted to keep on growing this company. But then I came to a point, I was like, am I just going to stay in Boston just to grow this company? And I realized when the answer was no, that I wasn't that passionate about the company. So I was like, oh, there must be something else going on. What's gravitating me towards California? I was like, oh, it'd also be cool to, explore the entertainment industry. Like, it'd be nice to, like, do some modeling. I was like, oh, that might be cool. Or I just thought it was just be a cool idea. So I was like, so I emailed HR, drafted up an email. I was like, oh, my family's thinking about moving to California. Can I relocate to the LA office? They're like, you already accepted Boston and you haven't even started working yet and you want to get relocated. And I'm also asking for higher pay because LA costs more and I'm asking for bonuses. So they're just like, who does this kid think he is? He hasn't even worked one day and he's already asking for demands. Yeah. And for 3 months later, they hit me back in a March day walking to, Carroll School of Management, and what was our building called? Was it called the Carroll? Yeah. And I get an email and it's from them, and I got the offer to move to the LA office. And when that happened, it was like the most scared I've ever felt. And I realized why I was so scared. It was because it was like this defining moment, and that decision was going to change my life forever. That's why I was terrified. I called my mom. I was like, they accepted me, but I don't think I want to move to LA. She was like, well, you have to now. Like, you can't go back to the Boston office. I was like, damn, I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't know anyone there. I was just saying this to say it. Yeah. And then I moved to LA. And it was just, California was just such an eye-opening experience. Yeah.
So you moved out there with the job offer.
Yeah, with the job offer.
So when did you get involved with like modeling and things like that?
So then we graduated in May 2017, and after we graduated, I had this major loss of identity. It was like something had been stripped fully from me. And I remember it very specifically because, I was going out with friends, partying a lot just because I was like, oh, I don't have to, like, I just committed the last couple months of senior year. Like, I was sober as a goose. So I wasn't really doing much because there was still the outdoor relay record that we hadn't broken, and there was still a time in my 400 time that I wanted to hit. Like, I wanted to run like 47 and 46 in the relay, and I just wanted to do that. So I was like, I'm not gonna like turn up or any of that stuff. So I did it on my last meet of my college career. So it took literally to the wire to make it happen. And so after I finished all that and we graduated, traveled a bit, went to like Vegas, Miami, visited California for the first time just to check out houses. And then I came back and I just started taking pictures. But I started losing weight because when I went to California, I saw how like fit everyone was. And I was asking people about the modeling industry. They're just like, like you just like, I was still fit and athletic, but I was just so bulky and I'd put on so much weight from like 3 weeks of partying. So I went from like 195 to like 208. No, 213. 213 was my max weight. I gained like, oh my gosh, I gained 18 pounds and like, and yeah, I put on that freshman 15 right when I graduated. So yeah, I came back and I just started collaborating with photographers. I ended up booking the ESPN commercial that aired on ESPN. It was like for a company called Core Power. It was a football commercial. And then so over the summer.
What time period was that?
So this was May, June. So this was June. This was end of June of 2017. And then I was still doing photo shoots June, July, August, moved to LA in August of 2017 and had this, it wasn't a good portfolio. looking back on it now, I'm just like, holy crap, I thought these pictures were like amazing, but they weren't. And just started applying to agencies all across LA, getting rejected by agencies, but thank God I worked for Verizon Wireless, so I was already used to getting rejected. and one agency, finally was like, yeah, like we like you, we'd love to, have you. And then it kind of just started from there with that one agent.
Did you have a friend that was doing modeling? Like, how did you think about?
So my friend John Vaughn,
Okay.
who I was talking about earlier, and that ran track with me in high school and at BC, he was like did modeling a lot as a kid.
Okay.
And his sister was very successful. His sister was a supermodel, legitimately a supermodel. She was like one of the top models in the world when she was like at her peak. And so like they had a lot of knowledge about the industry. So like, he'd always like, he was kind of like the person that would be like, hey, like, you should do it. You should do it. And like, kind of guided me throughout my journey.
Wow, that's awesome. So did you end up starting your job in LA and were doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So, cause it was like, I came to LA and I had about a week before my job started. And yeah, and so I started working almost immediately. And then, so I essentially was still trying to figure out this whole modeling and acting thing. So I was mostly using weekends. And then thankfully I got to start working from home. So
Yeah.
I really got to figure out, learning about the industry, actually going to auditions, networking with people, because I had a little more flexibility. I could just set up at a coffee shop next to where my audition was. And then during my lunchtime, just, go real quick.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's what I was doing for a vast majority of the time.
How many no's do you think you got before you got a yes?
Ooh, actually, it was crazy. My first ever thing was a yes.
Oh my God.
My first ever, and it was a big yes. It was a Nike yes.
Oh
It
my.
was it was a Nike commercial. It's probably, I think it's Nike's number one most viewed and like engaged commercial of all time. It was Nike's commercial in 2017 with LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and I think Paul George. And it just went absolutely berserk. So I was supposed to be one of the basketball players in the commercial,
Yeah.
and that like crosses, that like gets like crossed up, and like the kid and then I try to recover and like um, block the kid,
Yeah.
and they asked me to be in the commercial. This was like the first thing I ever applied for, any audition I ever applied for, and they hit me back immediately like, "We like your look. We want you in this commercial." And I was like, "Oh yeah, this would be awesome." And I was like, "Wait, I have a job. Like I legitimately, I have a full-time job. Like holy crap! How am I?" It was shooting for 3 days. I was like, I just moved here, and we had to be in Chicago for work training,
Oh
and
wow.
it was like we had to be there. It was like, what do you mean you're not going to be here? It's and
Wow.
so I told Nike no. I was like, I can't do it. I have this job, and I
Yeah.
was so upset. I was like that. I was legitimately in tears because I was like, wow, like this my first ever opportunity. I'm already saying no, and then from there on, I was like, I'm never gonna say no to a project again. Like I'm always gonna make it work out. Like because there's always a way.
Yeah. Wow. So, what were I don't know how the modeling industry works. So, what like do you just submit your photos to a bunch of agencies and then is that what?
So
Or just
there's like two ways it works. So you can either be like a freelancer or you can have like an agent. And so to get an agency, you have to go into modeling open calls or submit your pictures online. So if they like your pictures that you submit online, they'll email you and ask maybe for more pictures or for you to come in. And if they like you during an open call is essentially you go in, it's a designated time frame. It's usually only an hour once a week. Agencies will hold and to see new talent. You'll go in, um, they'll look at you, they'll look at your portfolio. So if they like you, they'll take pictures of you. Most of the time, they just will take the pictures just because it's polite. and then if they want more, they'll call you in later on, or they'll ask you to stay at the place, so then you can meet more and more people on the team.
Yeah.
And so that's how you get an agent. And then to get auditions and bookings, your agent can get you and submit you your pictures for castings. So like the Nike will contact agents, so they'll have more of an open casting call on like certain websites. Like LA Casting is like a casting network site that you have to get a subscription to have, and they'll have the calls open on there, and your agent can submit you. But if you don't have an agent, some of the calls will be on the casting websites, but not all of them.
Yeah.
So some companies will only be looking for like rep talent or highly exclusive talent. So like the notion is, if you have an agent, you're like a little bit above level, and then certain agents kind of get you, kind of towards that next tier because of their connections in their network.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just kind of how life works. And then, so then if you don't have one, then you just pretty much submit or use your network to get opportunities.
What was your path?
It was it was it was a combination of both. Like even till now, I still submit myself.
Yeah.
And I would say I probably have between agents and managers, I probably have over, I think it's about 12 now, between LA, Boston, New York. So like I still submit myself. Like I even have like a manager who's like dedicated solely to me. Doesn't even matter. I still submit myself. Like I'm not gonna lose out on opportunities. And I always think no one's gonna work hard as you for you as yourself. So I'm like, there's stuff that my agents just assume that I don't want or aren't high enough paying, where I'm like, you know what? I would still do it. It's a cool company. And so, because for agents to make money,
you meet from that too.
exactly, you never know the connections you can meet, and the relationships you can establish.
Yeah.
And for agents, the reason why generally, so agents make it on a range of 10 to 20% on your bookings.
Yeah.
So let's say you book $1,000 gig, they'll make 100 or 200. They'll make, let's say it's 20%, just for a number's sake. They'll make $200 on that.
Yeah.
So usually for the agents I work with, usually they're like bigger agencies. So like they want gigs that pay in the 5,000, 10,000, like ranges like that, because then, they make a lot more money. They make $1,000 on a 5,000 gig. They make $2,000 on a 10,000 gig. So they won't submit clients on like things that cost a couple hundred, because it doesn't do anything for them. It's a waste of their time to make $50. So that's kind of like the premise behind certain agents.
So at what point did you, I assume you quit your job and then went
Yeah.
full time? So what point was that?
So that was after the first year of working. So I worked for about a year, and initially it was even like more so quit. I knew in myself I was quitting, but I just took time off. Like I was just like, I'm not gonna work. Like I don't want to work right now. And I was like, I just don't want to work. And I just got promoted. And like after my first year, and so I knew I had the leverage. So I was like, you know what? I think I need I was like, I legitimately, because I was still kind of in that, threshold of like fear and doubt, when I was like, you know what, I'm willing to take this chance on modeling and acting, but I kind of just want some fallback. Like I just want to make sure, like, if I just fall flat on my face, that okay, I didn't quit. I just told them I didn't want to work. And so, for that year, I just focused solely on modeling and acting. And I would say, I think I told them September of 2018. So from September till January, I didn't work a single job, like not a single one. And I was like, whoa, I was like to myself, I was like, damn, can I even do, like, I was going out on auditions and everything, but I wasn't booking anything. And so I kind of went home and kind of talked to my mom. We reconvened. She's like, God didn't bring you this far for this to happen. Like, just keep going and believing in yourself. So I went back to LA, and I think on that January date, it was like I just started working like non-stop. It was like the bookings were just coming left and right. I think that was the first time I worked with like JC Penney. It was like American Apparel. Then they ended up booking me for multiple other things, and then like Microsoft, and then just a bunch of companies. I just ended up not stopping, and so it was like when the year mark came back to Accenture, I was like, oh, I'm good now. Like this is what I'm doing. Like I even forgot I told you guys like that I would come back potentially in a year. And so it was like that was like my full quit. I was like, oh, I'm fully out because I had been able to make a full-time income from acting and modeling, and even a better income than I was making at the company. So I was like, I'm fine.
So you were at Accenture for a year, and you were doing modeling on the side.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it was a lot to balance.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Sorry.
That's a lot of hard work you were doing that. I mean, full-time job and then just working on the side the entire time on photo shoots and stuff.
Yeah, it was like my first year in California, it was just like life was just nonstop. It was nonstop because I knew I had to put in so much overtime because my job was committing about anywhere from 10 to 12 hours of my time a day. So and I still wanted to be a human. So like hang out with people, I'm in California. Like I want to meet new people, like make friends, like in Cali. And so it was a lot to manage. I would say, I think on average that first year I might have slept like honestly 4 hours. Like that was probably the average amount of sleep. Like it was 20-hour days, it was automatic. It was happening. Like if it had to be 24 because I had to work all day and then work out and then like be on set all night and then go to work the next morning, fine, I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I told myself I wanted it. So obviously it's not going to be easy if like you want to maximize on every opportunity. So when I first started off, I was doing anything I could do. I was doing background work, being an extra, like it didn't matter. I was like, as long as I get on set. The nice thing is like a lot of shoots, have different time frames. So like some of them are night shoots. So I was just doing a lot of night shoots, and that's how I met a lot of my friends in LA, like on set. And then and then sometimes during the day, if I was booked for something, I'd bring my laptop and do work. Most of the time for some sets, you're not even working all the time. You're just kind of sitting there waiting for if they book a lot of people, you might be working for like maybe an hour total. So I can literally do a full work day at Accenture on set.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So January of 2019 is when you went full time?
Or September. No. Is it September? No, January 20. So I started working at Accenture August 2017, that August 2018. So August of 2019 was like full. I mean, I went full time August 2018.
Okay. After.
But then went like full time like August 2019. Like it was like Accenture wasn't like, I was still like between that. Like I only got paid for Accenture for a year. Yeah. I stopped getting paid that year I was off work.
So from September of 2018, you were.
Yeah. So I've been gun-ho since then.
Yeah. Awesome. What are some things you like about the modeling industry? What are some things you don't like? I mean,
I like, I think it pays very well. I like that part. The free clothes, I would say the free gear is pretty nice. Like I don't shop too much anymore, which is kind of nice because a lot of people would just like kind of gift me stuff. And so I would say that aspect is nice. And then just networking. I really like meeting the people. A lot of my network I've met working, and you establish a very good relationship and respect for one another, because when you're on certain high caliber jobs, it's like, oh, they only picked maybe 2, 3, or 4 of us. So like there's something unique about each other. So like we should, make sure like that we, it's up to us to, try to learn more about each other, because there's obviously something special. Like out of a couple thousand people, us two were chosen. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of respect. A lot of my friends in the industry, like I would say, like we all respect each other because it's like we know how hard it is to book these jobs, and the way we met is like through work. So like it's a very nice mutual respect. So I would say that's easily my favorite part, like the people that I've met on the set.
Yeah. I guess. What else? Um, hmm. uh, so, what else can we talk about? Um, the what do you I get I'm blanking on, but just
Right.
I think that like where do you see yourself going, and what are uh, your future goals in the industry?
Yeah, I would say I think in the industry, I definitely see myself more as an actor. That's been, I've been focusing. Oh, I would say my first year and a half, 2 years, I was really focusing on developing my model portfolio. But this past really year and a half, I've really been focusing more on the craft of acting, and it's just because I've gotten so much enjoyment out of it because it's been the one tool where I've been able to like freely express like my emotions, and acting is it's such great therapy because yeah, you can if someone gives a script to you and someone gives a script to me,
Yeah.
we have the same exact words, but we're going to read it completely different. And it's because of the subtext, the meaning behind each words.
Yeah.
So you're able to like articulate your emotions in such like a meaningful way that it feels so good. So in some scenes, you'll be expressing anger, and your substitute, a lot of it is, so for example, let's say there's a character, his name's Billy, and you guys get in an argument. A lot of the time we use substitutions. So we Billy is just a name on the paper. Billy has to be somebody
Yeah.
for you to actually have an emotion behind it. So you might if you feel anger towards Billy, you might substitute him. I'll use someone like my father, someone who I felt anger to. So it brings out all these great emotions that I've been bottling in for so long. And so I use current people from like way back in my life all the time. If it hasn't gives me an emotional charge, I use it in a scene, and it's really helpful because I don't really feel resentment towards people because if I'm mad at someone, I'll just put it in my work. And then it just so like when my dad called me the other day, he was expecting me to be mad at him. And I was like, I'm good. Like if anything, you help me like on a daily basis. It's great. It's great emotional therapy. So I've really enjoyed that. So I guess my goals for that. I've been mostly doing, so they kind of rank it in terms of TV. It's like co-star, which is usually anywhere from like 2 to 8 lines in an episode. Guest star, which is like your guest star, so it's like usually 6 to 15, and then series regulars, which is like you're a regular on the TV show, and stuff like that. So I've been mostly in this like co-star guest star realm, and then I do like features and like short films where I usually get a lot more lead opportunities. So it's honestly just growing and growing more of that portfolio. But it's been going really well. Been
Oh,
getting.
I know what I wanted to ask you when I blanked out.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, part of the modeling, part of being a model is being in shape. And
Mhm.
what have been your keys there to?
Yeah. Whew, my environment is just really set up for working out. It's like I know people like to think like some people just love working out all the time. Like, yeah, I like working out. I've I was an athlete, so it's like it's just kind of muscle memory at this point. But when you're not an athlete, you don't necessarily just want to work out all the time. Like I'm busy all the time, so it's like it'd be nice to just like chill. But I in the, like my room, like I will literally just have like an ab roller set out. Like I have a sit up machine attached to my door, a pull up machine. Like
Yeah.
I write, I have a whiteboard with every task that I need to complete every single day. And I make sure I check off that task, and working out is part of that task. So it's usually the first thing I just do in the morning just to get away with it. It's like, because I know I'm not going to want to do it at the end of the day. I know I'm not going to want to do that. So I just get away with it right in the morning. And I don't work out for too long. Like athletics really made me hate working out for a while, because I would train for like 4 hours,
Yeah.
sometimes 5 hours or 6 hours a day. And it would just be, puts a lot on your body. So now it's given me the freedom where I only have to work out for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, but I'm consistent with it.
Yeah.
Consistent with it. So I just make sure I do something. Even when I don't want to do anything, I'm like, okay. I even have like a subtask list. Okay, Obi, on days that you don't want to work out, still need to give me 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I can give that. I can give that at least.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you do something.
So for someone that might be watching this and, is just starting out, what are a couple of things? I mean, obviously for them, you've made it, and you've made it. So they're looking at you with, wide eyes and looking to learn. What are maybe a couple of things that, if you were advising them on, if they're just starting out or they want to enter the modeling industry, what are things that?
Yeah, I would say, you have to have a clear vision. I think if you don't have the clear vision, you'll be going all over the place. In the modeling industry, it's as much as like I enjoy being in it, it's also a very tough and it can be very detrimental to health and yourself in general. So if you don't have that clear vision, you could go down the wrong path. And I've seen people go down the wrong path. So it's like, if your vision is just to make money, it's like, all right, that can't just be the sole vision, because then you don't really know yourself. So that anyone with a check can just book you. So that means then you can get into some bad stuff. Like I've seen people, they get into nude shoots, they get into like less tasteful things, because their vision was to make money. So money, as long as you're getting the check at the end of the day, that's what your vision was. But so if you don't have a clear vision and you're not doing too well, that's why it's like you need to have that clear vision, because sometimes it's hard, especially if you go fully into this. You still need to pay your bills. You still need to pay rent. So somebody with a couple $1,000s, a couple $100s might be able to convince you to do something that you don't want to do because you need it. So when you know who you are and your vision, it doesn't matter. You're like, I'm not going to accept any of that stuff. I'm not going to do that. So, and it's especially even worse for females. So any females definitely need to have a very strong vision, because in California, they can definitely females are a little more prone to being taken advantage of in the modeling industry. So clear vision. And then that clear vision is like, do you want to be a high fashion model? Do you want to be a lifestyle model? Do you want to do athletics? Do you want to do tech companies? Like, what is your look? And figuring out your look and like what you market best at. So to figure that out, you're going to have to, test and do photo shoots. So you got to invest in that, because most photographers, unless you have an amazing look and they really like you, aren't going to shoot you for free. Yeah. So you either have to have those connections or you got to be blessed. And so, so like making sure that you at least have money set aside so that you can do photo shoots, because that'll allow you to make sure the vision is more clear, because you'll realize, oh, you might have wanted to do high fashion, but you don't necessarily have that look. And so your look might actually be better for lifestyle. So now you can work for companies like Target, Gap, stuff like that, big box stores. You might not be working for Gucci or Louis Vuitton, because they go for very certain niche looks. So figuring that out, so you're not like treading in this water, drowning yourself because you're just doing the wrong thing when the land is right there. It's like, just step in and fully focus on this. And I think if you double down on your strengths, you'll definitely get a better result. Yeah. So that staying in shape, got to, depending on, that's why it's important to figure out your look, because it'll help you determine what type of workouts you need to do. So if you're more athletic, you're obviously lifting more, doing a little more athletic things. If you're, a high fashion model, they really don't lift very heavy weights. They have to be very slim. So your workouts will change based on that. So, and eating habits too.
In terms of the acting, is that something you've done in your past? Were you involved with theater growing up in high school?
No, I wasn't involved in any theater at all growing up. So it was, I guess I've always been involved in, expressing myself,
Yeah.
talking to people. I've always enjoyed public speaking. That's kind of going to be my next route. Is like, I want to dive more into public speaking. So yeah, it's the awesome journey about acting is because I'm so new to it, and because of like my discipline and structure that I have like in my life, I feel like I've seen myself grow very quickly in the field, a lot faster than people, just because I just do it every single day. Like I do it every single day. Like behind me I have scripts, I have acting books. Like that's what I do it every single day. I do something in form that helps my craft, and I'm just a student. I think that's why I appreciate college, because it just taught me to be a student to the game. So I'm just a student to the craft now. Like I'm just studying it nonstop. So I just treat it just like school again, because it's also a job. It's fun, but it's
Yeah.
also a job. Like I don't, I have to memorize 10-page scripts just for an audition that I might not even get booked for. And that's just to audition. That's not even to work on set. To work on set, that script's completely different. That's 100-page script that you need to be completely off book for. And you have to have the emotions behind it. And you got to act. It's a whole nother ballgame.
Cool. So is there anything I missed? I mean, you're modeling, you're acting. Are you doing anything else?
Yeah, and then so right now I've been writing a book the past couple of months. Right now we're in quarantine, so I've been able to focus in on it a lot more, which has been a real blessing. So the book is called From Corporate Handcuffs to Hollywood Freedom. And it's essentially talks about how I went from the corporate world to working in Hollywood full time. And so I give like a written framework and like things that I did every single day that really helped me, just think on a better frequency, because I think a lot of it is energy. So when you're vibrating on a higher frequency, you tend to be a lot happier. You tend to be a lot more optimistic. And when you're negative, you're vibrating on a lower frequency. You're more pessimistic. You don't really believe in yourself. Things can easily affect you. So I kind of give a framework on how people can really change their mindset, because if you change your mind, you can change your life. Your mind has over 62,000 thoughts in a day, and most of them are negative. And it's really bad because we allow one negative thought to grow into something so much bigger than it actually is, and it really starts consuming us. So I think it takes a lot of time to sit back and change yourself. Like I had to really reconstruct like my whole like human anatomy in my brain, because the way I was thinking wasn't going to be advantageous to becoming successful, and certain thoughts contradict themselves. So you can't tell yourself you're going to be the best actor and model, but then you're still working your job. To me, I've never seen anyone else do that. So unless I become the first person to do it, but if I don't want to work that job, then it doesn't make sense if I become the first person to do it. So your actions really have to align with your thoughts. And so, and I think that also stems from the people you surround yourself with, and also what you do every day, what you consume, what type of content are you consuming, what do you watch on TV? Everything affects it. What do you eat? So I even changed. I used to eat meat all the time. I went vegan because I didn't want to consume meat anymore, so I could see how my body felt. And I did it, and my body felt amazing. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing this. And so I made so many changes in my life. So I kind of I talk about all that. And then people who want to get into the corporate field, I talk about that, my experience, because I was also one of very few African American males like working at Accenture. So that obviously came with like its trials and tribulations. So yeah,
Sounds
so
good.
hopefully the book
Awesome.
will be done by 2020.
Awesome. Good to hear that. Yeah, I think we'll be on the lookout for that book. Um, how can so was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think we've we've
You
hit
did a
some
lot.
points. Yeah, hit some points for sure.
I hope you enjoyed it. I
No,
think
that was awesome.
yeah, I think that people will love it. Um, appreciate you being my first guest, and appreciate.
Hey.
How can we support you? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so if you want I'm pretty good with responding to like on Instagram. So if you want to hit me up on Instagram, if I don't answer a direct message, honestly, you could literally comment on a photo and just be like, "Hey, I DM'd you. I just have a couple questions," and I'll literally instantly respond. Sometimes I just don't see the direct messages, but if you comment and say you do, like I'm gonna respond. I'm not one of those people. And then if you just have any industry questions, you can hit me up.
Do you want to give them your handle?
Yeah, so it's so ITS OBI Nwakwo NWANKWO. So I'll repeat, at ITS OBI NWANKWO. And then my email is on there as well. So if you have even more personal questions that need a little bit more attachments or writing out, I'm pretty helpful to people who are trying to get in the industry, because I appreciate you taking that risk and going for it. It's a big dream to go for, and so I know people had to support me for me to get where I am. So I'd love to just be a vessel for other people as well. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, yeah, thank you very much, Obi. You're an impressive individual.
thank you.
The hard work that you've done has, from a young age, is just going through what you went through at 11 and continuing to be self-sufficient and work hard. 10 school records, and then go out to LA and work full time, and then do modeling on the side for a year, and then finally put in the chips after, like, go in full time. That's very impressive, and a lot of the jobs that you've booked is just incredible.
Thank you.
So definitely an inspiration to all of us, and continued best. Good luck with modeling and acting and the book.
Thank you.
Definitely look forward to it. I'll definitely grab a copy.
Hey, let's go. First copy sold. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you bringing me on. I had a great time talking, and you're a great host, bro. Always good energy, so appreciate you.
Thank you, Obi. I will.